What's going on, Bucs fans? Back here after a big win, 40 burger on the Chargers on Sunday. Bucs handle their business and more. We're back here at the Pirate Parlay podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, JC Allen, flying solo today, but I'm going to get you guys' thoughts, your comments. I got a question of the day that we'll get to as well. Try to figure that out with Mike Evans closing in on 1,000 yards. Bucky Irvin closing in on 1,000 yards. Baker Mayfield, 32 touchdowns. This team is setting all kind of personal records as they move along. Over 500 yards against the Chargers, moving and grooving on a 4-game win streak. We'll get into that. Is it sustainable? What's going on with the injury report? Bucs are starting to get a lot of national attention too. We'll talk about all that and more after the break.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
Back at it on the other side. Appreciate everyone for joining and tuning in. We're here at the Pirate Parlay podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm your host, JC Allen. As always, we got a good show for you today. Flying solo, but hoping to get a lot of you guys, your participation with some of the questions I have. We'll get into this big win that the Buccaneers had over the Chargers. What's the injury report looking like? And a little bit more fun, too, as we go along. Appreciate everyone tuning in. If you're on the platform streaming sites, appreciate you guys listening. As always, coming over to YouTube, we're usually live on Wednesdays. Next week will be a little wonky because of Christmas holidays. Same thing with the following week with New Year's. But we're here live usually Wednesdays at 7 o'clock and usually on Fridays as well, breaking down behind enemy lines. Go ahead and do me a favor. Like, subscribe, turn notifications. There's a little share button. Send it to a friend. Get them going. Get them fans of the network. Let's keep building the subscriber base. We're doing great. Appreciate all of you guys as always for tuning in. But let's get into it. 40 points. 40 burger on the Chargers. Chargers coming in with the number one scoring defense in the league, only allowing 15.9 points per game. The Buccaneers said, not having that. They came out of the gate scoring first drive. Jalen McMillan opening things up with a 26-yard touchdown pass from Baker Mayfield. Chargers answers right back. Bucs answer right back with a field goal. One of those, they're at the 4-yard line. It's kind of one of those things. Do you go for it? Do you kick it? Bucs decided to take the points. And the Chargers matched them right afterwards before taking a lead right before the half. Bucs got another field goal on there to make it 13-7 Chargers. And that was it. That was over for the Chargers. They would not score again. Buccaneers took full control of this game. Probably the most complete game they played all season long, both on offense and defense. They got after Justin Herbert with the pressure, with the sacks. They made him turn the ball over, something that he hasn't done in a very long time. And they went on their way to score 27 unanswered points to get the 40 points on the board, not allowing the Chargers to score again. Chargers were awful on third down, 0 for 6. Bucs held them to 0 for 3, I believe, on fourth down as well. Just not able to move the ball sufficiently enough to win this game. Some stars of the game, Baker Mayfield, he wins the NFC Offensive Player of the Week after a 288-yard, 4-touchdown performance. He only had 5 incompletions on the day. He had 1 interception, which, you'd love 4 incompletions, and then the interception. You would have loved to have that one back, but just really good pass defense in that. Last week we talked about with John Ledyard what's wrong with Baker Mayfield. He must have watched that podcast, must have watched what John put out on his tape review and said, nothing's wrong. Watch this. And he went out and had himself a day. And one of his favorite targets on the day was none other than Mr. Mike Evans, who won the FedEx Air Player of the Week, ground player. I don't know how they do that. Air and ground, but it was only 3 quarterbacks and 3 wide receivers. So is it still an air player? Does it count on the ground? I'm not sure. 9 of 11, 159 yards and 2 tutties. Opened up the scoring in the third quarter with a 57-yard touchdown pass from Baker Mayfield before adding a 35-yard touchdown pass on 3rd and 12 later in the third quarter. Third quarter was all Mike Evans. He was a beast. He also had a huge conversion on third down in the fourth quarter, too, to set up Rachaad White's touchdown run, touchdown score in the fourth quarter as well. Just showing up, showing out between him and Jalen McMillan stepping up with his third touchdown in the last 2 games, 75 yards and 5 receptions. Bucs wide receiving corps stepping up and doing the job. Mike Evans now in his pursuit of 1,000 yards is that much closer, needs 252 to get there, rough average of 84 yards per game. Obviously, some pretty good cornerback matchups coming up with Trayvon Diggs now out for the season for the Cowboys. The Saints, they don't really have any. J.C. Horn will be a tough test, but, Mike Evans approaching that 1,000-yard mark. We talked to Baker Mayfield today, and he said, I'm thinking about it more than Mike is. I said, no one wants to be the guy who doesn't get him the streak. So, it's going to be something that the Bucs are going to be looking forward to, trying to get Mike Evans that number, obviously. But again, as Baker said, not forcing it. You can't force it. If you force it, that's when mistakes happen. Mistakes weren't happening in this game outside of Baker Mayfield's interception, Rashad White's fumble in the second quarter of all quarters. You thought that things are going to start to snowball. Obviously, the Chargers take a lead in that second quarter. They get the touchdown real quick out the interception, but the Bucs defense, because Levante David comes in on second down with a huge sack of a loss of 9 yards, 9 yards on the first one. I think it was 11 on the second one, and puts them back. Then they get a penalty, and they end up having to punt the ball. Huge defensive stop by the Bucs, and from there on out, it was all Bucs. They said, no, thank you. You guys aren't scoring on us. You guys aren't driving the ball on us. If you look at the possession, after the third quarter, it was pretty lopsided for the Bucs. Touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal, end the game. Not so good for the Chargers. Punt, interception, downs, fumble to end the game. It did not turn out well for the Chargers, who, again, had one of the better defenses in the league, number 1 scoring defense in the league as well. And the Buccaneers just came in and completely dismantled them, thrashed them. Again, the talk was, well, they're on a 3-game winning streak, but none of their opponents have are over 500, and none of them have, winning records. And the Bucs said, oh, you want us to beat an opponent with a winning record? The 8-5 Chargers? Yeah, we'll do that real quick for you guys. The other stars of the game, obviously Bucky Irving keeping the ball moving on the ground, 117 yards. He broke free for a long of 54 yards, just chugging away. He's on his way to 1,000 yards himself. The Bucs have not have a 1,000-yard rusher since 2015 when Doug Martin accomplished the mark. So 9 years ago is the last time the Bucs had a 1,000-yard rusher. Obviously, Rashad White coming close last year, finishing with 10 yards shy. He had plenty of opportunities, but also slid down a lot to end games and stuff like that, which end up hurting him in that pursuit. But Bucky Irving already over 1,000 yards, scrimmage yards on the season. He's got 296 receiving, but he just needs 148 yards over the last 3 games to total 1,000 yards. Looking like he'll be the next 1,000-yard rusher for the Bucs, 4th round pick. I mean, Light just keeps hitting these picks, nails on the head with them. And continues to just pull these guys out of nowhere. 5th round guys, 4th round guys, 3rd round guys. And they just continue to hit. Logan Hall had himself a big game. Originally, Levante was credited with 2 sacks. They took half of it away, give it to Logan Hall. So he finished with a sack and a half. Jamel Dean finally with an interception. He gets one to kind of Herbert, his only one, his first one, I think since week 2. Herbert coming into the game, I think only had like 2 interceptions on the season, was very efficient with the ball. Even, with the, lack thereof, better wide receiving core. They got Ladd McConkey, who scored a touchdown as a rookie, but, kind of everyone else has been up and down. Quinton Johnson's been good in the red zone, has been a touchdown monster, but, still is dealing with the case of the drops and hasn't had an overwhelmingly great season. But, Herbert was getting it done, and Jamel Dean said, I'll take that. Nice interception for him. Rashad White chugging along too, 64 yards on the ground, 17 yards to the air with a touchdown to kind of just put the icing on the cake, put them up 37-17, up by 20 points before Chase or Chase McLaughlin rather, tops off the 40 burger with a field goal with 2:51 remaining in the game. As I said, a complete game for the Bucs. Just dismantling Chargers. They did a absolute phenomenal job of containing their weapons. They did an absolute phenomenal job of moving the ball against a stingy defense. The Chargers weren't allowing a lot, and it was just a great overall game to kind of silence the naysayers who challenged the Bucs, to beat a team with a winning record. Obviously, you can't control the schedule. The Chargers are the only one left with a winning record. Dallas, New Orleans, and Carolina don't have one. They won't get one by the time the Bucs face them either. So, great win by the Bucs. I think it instilled a lot of confidence in the team, a lot of confidence in the fan base, and apparently a lot of confidence in the national media. They have received a ton of credit. I mentioned Baker Mayfield wins NFC Player of the Week for his contributes on offense. Mike Evans grabbing the nod for the FedEx Air and Ground Player over a guy like Devontae Adams, who had more yardage than him and more receptions than him. But, Mike Evans just tore it up. And then, of course, over, Bucky Irving, he gets the nod as Peter Schrager's top rookie of the week. And Peter Schrager also highlights a coach every week. And that was one Liam Coen. And we kind of talked about this last week with John, and I wrote about it today in my extra point takeaways after the game. The Bucs suddenly feel like they have a Liam Coen problem. And literally it has nothing to do with him and his ability that he's been doing, because it's been amazing. But he's been putting on a clinic as a play caller, scheming, getting the most out of this offense and the players here, especially in those last 4 weeks. He's kind of completely turned around the Bucs rushing attack, finished dead last the last 2 years in a row. I was talking to one of the guys on the offensive line after the game. I was like, last season you'd be lucky to get 235 yards between 3 games, breaks down like 68 yards per game. And you've done it 3 weeks in a row. And it's like, man, I know. We were just talking about that. So, complete turnaround. The running game is just clicking. He's calling plays that better suit the line's ability to block, better suit the runner's ability. You're seeing an uptick of, gap and pin pull and duo, all these type of run, more than zone, inside zone, outside zone, all of these things that really suit the running back and the blockers, and you're seeing them just take the ball and run with it, literally, all over teams. Doesn't matter what you were averaging beforehand as far as run defense. The Bucs have said, we're going to do more than that. They did it against the Ravens, who had the number 1. They did it against the Chiefs, who did the number 2. The Chargers were high up there. I think they're number 11. And they just said, no, we're going to run the ball down your throat. And they've been doing an amazing job. And a large part of that obviously goes to the players, always goes to the players, goes to Kevin Carberry and Brian Pachucci. They've been doing an amazing job, really kind of getting the offensive line up to date on the system and scheme. But it really kind of, Liam Coen is the one that has to make the play calls, has to make the adjustments. They came into the season when Chris Godwin really wanted to do, 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers, and kind of morphed into this 12 personnel, 21 personnel, where they've got 2 backs in the field, so they got 2 tight ends on the field, and they, are really just kind of moving the ball at will. And a lot of credit of that goes to Liam Coen, who's done that. You look at, the numbers themselves of what he's doing. The offense is 4th in passing, 4th in scoring, 6th in red zone, 3rd on 3rd down, 3rd in total offense. Cohen's got this team cooking. So problem because the Bucs have had their offensive coordinator poached last season and Dave Canales going over to the Panthers, and history could be repeating itself this year if Cohen wants to. We haven't got a chance to talk to him. I'm sure when we talk to him tomorrow, the national attention buzzed up, obviously, after this win. When you score 40 points on the number 1 ranked scoring defense in the league, it's going to happen. It was in the 4 o'clock window where a lot of the good games were, so a lot of eyes were on that. Peter Schrager, as I mentioned, brought it up. Dan Orlovsky brought it up. Chase Daniels brought it up. A lot of people are bringing it up that, hey, he's on the short list. I just read a piece by one of the ESPN analysts, and they were talking Fowler, and he was talking about, don't be surprised. He's going to get some interviews at the very least. They also mentioned Mike Greenberg and Spytech as well, potentially getting interviews, and Jackie Davidson, who I guess really kind of made a great showing for herself at to do like a front office thing like they do with coaches. I forget exactly what it's called. But, Liam Coen is definitely going to get some interviews, definitely going to get some look-sees with what he's done with this offense. I just gave you all the numbers. On top of that, having a top 5 offense, he's had over 500 yards on offense twice this season, over 400 yards 8 times this season. That's the most of any team. He's on the verge of having just the 5th season where the Bucs have 1,000-yard rusher and receiver, if Mike can get there, if Bucky can get there, just a 5th time in history. And Baker Mayfield's putting up career numbers, 32 touchdowns, 60 touchdowns are the most in the league since last year and this year. And teams are starting to take notice of the McVay prodigy. Could he be the next big thing? Is he the next big thing? He clearly understands how the offensive system works in the NFL. He clearly understands how to make adjustments, not just in game, but week to week with personnel. And he's lighting it up every week. His game plans are great. He's doing an amazing job with what he has been given. And at times that's been an injury-riddled offense. You're down Mike, you're down Chris. You're still competing in these games. You lose Tristan for a game. You lose Luke for 4 games. You lose Jalen McMillan for a few games, Trey Palmer for a few games. You're losing these guys kind of left and right. Bucky Irving is probably 75%, if that, dealing with back, toe, and hip injuries. And he just keeps this train running. Doesn't matter who's jumping in at running back. I mean, people are calling for their 3rd string running back to touch the ball more because of what he did against the Saints in week 5, 6. He's got all these guys playing amazing. The trajectory is pointing up, and unfortunately for the Bucs, it's pointing up quicker than they would like. And that's why the Bucs have a Liam Coen problem. Even if you go back to when Godwin was healthy, he was putting up numbers at an alarming rate. He led the league in receptions. He led the league in touchdowns at that point. He led the league in 3rd down catches. He's just amazing. Richard says if only Godwin was healthy, we'd have 2 1K receivers and a 1K running back. Absolutely. There's no reason why they wouldn't have. But yeah, he's done a phenomenal job. The question is, does he want to leave? That's the biggest question, because we've seen it in the last couple of years. Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, right? Ben Johnson with the Lions, Bobby Slowick with the Texans. Said, nah, I don't want this crappy job. I'm going to wait for the right time, for the right opening, with the right situation. And I don't know if that's out there. The Jets is mess. Giants, if it opens up, mess. The Bears, maybe. You got talented wide receivers. You've got a gaggle of running backs over there, talented tight end, a quarterback. Do you believe in Caleb Williams? You have to believe in the quarterback because they're not going to draft one. You have to believe in Caleb Williams. Do you? If they do, maybe that's a situation where they look at they need to fix that offensive line. That's a huge one. Kind of looking around the league, maybe the Browns open up. Kevin Stefanski, I mean, he's dealt with injuries, but he's been there for 3-4 years now and really hasn't, they got him into playoffs obviously 1 year, but is he on the hot seat? Jags is a big one. Do you believe in Trevor Lawrence? They'll spend money, but they also, Trent Baalke's doled out a lot of bad contracts recently that are going to kind of handicap this team. Do you, you're still in Florida. Do you, zero state tax, that matters too. Or do you stick around and you say, I don't think the right opportunity is here? Do you want to pick a team that is close and just maybe needs a quarterback or just maybe needs a competent offense? You want to pick a team that has a really good defense that you can kind of step over and hire someone and they're not building a defense because that's not your specialty and you're just focusing on bettering the offense. I don't know. I don't know what's on his mind. Of course, there's the opportunity that, maybe the Bucs do it. Maybe they win it all. Maybe they win it all. And Bowles, who said, I'm not going to coach forever, has no plans to coach until he's in his 70s. I believe he's 62 now. Maybe he walks away. And Coen just naturally takes over. Maybe it's a situation where the Glazers say, hey, what's the top dollar for offensive coordinators? $4-5 million? We'll give you that. You're not going anywhere. We want you to stick around. We want you to have this succession plan where you take over Bowles. As Brian mentions, Bucs need a succession plan for Coen if they keep Bowles like the Patriots do with Mayo. Not a guarantee he'll be the next coach, but it's more than likely that he stays in Tampa. I do know Liam does love Tampa. He loves Tampa. He loves the players. He loves the environment. He loves the city. He loves the atmosphere. He loves a lot of things about Tampa Bay. And I think it would have to be the perfect situation for him to leave. The Jets aren't that. I don't think the Jaguars are that. Depends how you view Caleb Williams, because I think there's a lot of good things going on with Chicago just being poorly run. And we know that they'll invest. The owners will invest. They're not stingy. They're not like the Bengals owners, or the Browns owner. They'll invest in something, but you have to believe in Caleb Williams. I think that's probably the best spot on the market right now. Do you go to the Raiders? Does Raiders open up? They have a lot. They have a lot of issues. They've got a lot of issues. But Tom Brady's there now. We know Coen has looked up to Brady, and having Brady in the building and kind of helping oversee things. So does that change anything? I still think he sticks with Tampa Bay if I had to go in my gut. But again, these head coaching jobs, there's only 32 of them. They don't come around all the time. Look at your boy Byron Leftwich, who said nah to the Jaguars job because Trent Baalke was there, and now he hasn't been in the league since. But also the situation, if he does do something, gets an opportunity, decides to take it, Bucs will be on their fourth offensive coordinator as many years, which would be a problem, which leads me to my first point. The Bucs have a Liam Coen problem. And it's because he's that dang good. And it had nothing to do with what he's been doing. He's that dang good. But as Baker told us today, he's like, we'll have to bring him down, bring his head down a little bit. There's not a shortage of guys who will bring him back down to earth. So yeah, I think they're it's a good problem to have. And as Bull said a couple weeks ago, and I asked him, that all these guys keep getting plucked or getting looks. He's like, at least I know I'm hiring the right ones. But I don't think this is one you can let get away. I want to give a big shout out to my first sponsor here on the Pirate Parlay podcast, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Cruise. They've extended their dates. There's 4 interior cabins left. Jump on now. Christmas is what, 8 days away now? 7 days away? Right around the corner. If you're struggling, what am I going to get? What can I get for a gift for my wife, for my son, for my dad, for my mom, whatever? Look no further than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Cruise. Guys, this thing is awesome. I can't wait. I've been counting down the days until we set sail. It's going to be so much fun. It sets sail from Fort Lauderdale to Key West and Bimini, Bahamas on March 7th to the 10th. Join your fellow Krewe and Bucs players and alumni such as Jordan Whitehead, Brad Johnson, Trey Palmer, Mike A. Train, Allstott, Graham Barton, Tristan Wirfs, Luke Gedeke, Yaya Diaby, Kalijah Cansey, Jamel Dean, Rashad Uno White, and so many more are going to be on this thing. Derek Brooks will be making an appearance. Last year, I advertised this. I put this out there. They had Warren Sapp show up and didn't tell me. I didn't know till I was boarding the cruise. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Aren't you supposed to be in Colorado? He goes, what are you, my father or my boss? True Warren Sapp. I was like, neither. I didn't know you'd be on the cruise. You just took the job from Colorado a week ago. So true Warren Sapp. But I had no idea. So who knows what surprises are in store? It's an unforgettable vacation. So many different events. A sail away party. They kick it off. You get autographs and pictures with the guys right off the bat. Trivia contest, bingo, cocktail parties where they split you into 2 groups, so it's a more intimate feeling. Again, you get that time to talk to them, get to know them as people, not just players. It's not an autograph line where you rush through, you sign it, and you move on. You have to actually spend some one-on-one time with these guys. They have player panels, a water volleyball competition against each other, and then against the crew to determine who wins the trophy. Last year, Jamel Dean's team won with Yaya Diaby as the MVP, and so many other things that keep the fun going all cruise long. Don't miss your awesome opportunity to celebrate with your team with Bucs fans from around the nation and create opportunity to have lasting memories with Bucs fans and your favorite players. Buccaneers Cruise, check it out now before they're sold out. Again, 4 interior cabins. Those are the cheaper ones. Check it out. You won't want to miss it. And let me know if you're going. Shoot me a DM because I'm excited to party with you guys. My motto on the cruise is if it's moving, I'm boozing. You can find me at the old-fashioned bar, probably at the buffet, and also down in the casino, losing my money with some NFL players, trying to keep up with them. Realizing that I am a broke person and they have millions of dollars. Probably shouldn't try to keep up. But that being said, let's jump into this injury report. Before that, I'm going to put a question in here and I want you guys to give me your answer. Because I asked it on X, Twitter. I hate that I'm getting used to saying X. I asked it on X and I've had a good responses so far. Some people have started giving me lists. Because it was posed, where does Mike Evans, in your mind, take your Bucs hat off, where does he rank among the top receivers in NFL history? Where does he rank among the top receivers in NFL history? I think we can all agree whatever order you have them in is whatever, but Jerry Rice, Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, I think that's most everyone's top 5. Maybe some people have AB in there instead of T.O. Some people, some people said they have Mike there. Mike is number 5. Where does Mike rank in your top 5? Give me your top 10 if you want to. Where does Mike rank there? If he's in your top 10, is he in the top 15? Is he in the top 20? Where do you have Mike as a wide receiver of all time? Drop it in the comments. Let me know. I'll tell you where I have him afterwards, after we get some of your guys' thoughts. Let me know. Where does Mike rank in your mind all time amongst the wide receivers? Is he top 5? Is he top 10? Is he knocking on the door? Top 15, top 20? Where do you got him? That being said, let's jump into this Buccaneers injury report because the list is shrinking, but it's not quite shrunk yet. Today was just a walkthrough, so all of the participation levels are an estimation, as they would say. But KJ Britt still not practicing with the ankle. Talked to him in the locker room. He's getting close. I wouldn't be surprised if he's limited Thursday and Friday, potentially able to play this week. Mike Edwards, though, was limited, dealing with a hamstring. He's missed 2 games so far. Looks like he's on track to play this week. Bucs get one of their members of the secondary back. Mike Evans did not practice with a rest day. Generally typical for him for not practice on a Wednesday. Sometimes even a Thursday, limited on a Friday and ready to go. They do not want to take any chances with him. Will Golson's been on the injury report all season with something. This week it's a knee, but he was a full participant in practice today, if it was a real practice. Logan Hall, 1.5 sack. Logan Hall, that is, 4.5 sacks on the season, career high. He was limited today with shoulder and wrist injuries. Bucky Irving limited today with back, hip, and he's still got the toe thing that's going to bother him all season, but they didn't list it. Limited there. Christian Izzy dealing with that groin. He managed to play this week after being questionable, kind of a game time decision. He's limited. Man, was he huge on Sunday. Yeah, he had that weak DPI. I talked to him about that. I'm like, that was the worst thing I've ever seen. Weak defensive pass interference call. But he made up with some big hits. I mean, he's just a cruise missile when he's out there, and he finds the lane and finds the runner. He just comes through and hits him hard. He's a lot of fun to watch. Cameron Johnson, who's on injured reserve, he's with an ankle injury. He's a full participant. He was a full participant last week. He's got about another 2 weeks before they can activate them. They're trying to figure out if they can find a spot for him on the active roster. Unfortunately, Marquise Watts, who was full participation the last 2 weeks, trying to come off IR, they cannot find a spot, and hopefully nothing happens where they're regretting that. But he is not coming off IR. His window had passed. Marquise Watts will stay on IR for the remainder of the season, even though he appears to be healthy. That's kind of how it is. Baker Mayfield dealing with a knee injury, did not practice. This is more maintenance than anything. He did, when we talked to him, he did have a sleeve on his left knee. But again, I feel like he's going to be fine. Not too worried about Baker Mayfield. He's going to play through anything. This one did kind of worry me a little bit. I saw him in the locker room. He was walking around pretty good. Didn't see any noticeable limps. But Kadon didn't practice with the knee today. You can't lose him. Payne Durham has stepped up tremendously, but you have to have you got to have Kadon on the field. While his production has gone down the last couple of weeks, he has been really good. Especially as a blocker. We talked about it with Ledger last week, just how much he has improved as a blocker has just been incredible to watch. But he does it all. He had another couple big catches last week, one for 13 yards, one for 11 yards, just kind of doing the dirty work that doesn't get a lot of recognition sometimes. But he is getting recognition in Pro Bowl fan voting, so he's top 10 in that. So hopefully the Bucs can get him to the Pro Bowl because he's having a great season. You kind of look at what he's doing for the Bucs this year. He's already finally broke one of my predictions. I had him for 50, 505. He needs one more touchdown to get that fifth touchdown, but he's at 59 receptions for 600 yards. Leading receptions leader for the Buccaneers this season, leading the league, leading the team in receptions. Obviously, Evans is leading it in yards. Funny enough, Chris Godwin is actually third in receptions and third in yards. Still hasn't played since, week 8? But Rachaad White's catching right up to him. Rashad's going to go over 50 receptions again. Could possibly go over 500 yards again. And he's already got 6 tutties on the season. He just needs two more receiving touchdowns for Rachaad White, and he ties Mike Allstott for the most in Buccaneers history. So something to watch out for him too as he tries to make history. Sterling Shepard with a foot injury did not practice. He didn't practice a lot last week, but then was able to play with a questionable designation. Probably the same. Tyke Smith dealing with that knee injury still limited. They're going to play it safe with him. Antoine Winfield Jr., we know he's going to be out for a couple more weeks at least. Maybe they can get him back for the Panthers week, but we know he's going to at least be out this week again. Didn't practice with a knee injury. And Tristan Wirfs with his foot knee injury, he did not practice as well. That's as expected. You're going to play it safe with Tristan. Last thing you want is a setback and a walkthrough. Looking at the Giants, I'm not going to go through their whole thing, but they did have a couple of guys that popped up. Matthew Smith, their first-round pick last year, didn't participate with a back injury. Back injuries and defensive tackles are no good. And their other defensive tackle, Nick Virgil, didn't participate as well. So, you've got 2 guys on their defensive line not participating. Trevon Diggs is out for the season, didn't practice today. Another big one here, Eric Kendricks. He's dealing with a personal day today, but also a calf injury. Didn't practice. We'll see if it was just a personal day or, kind of intertwined as the week goes on. Cooper Beebe looks like he's coming back out of concussion protocol. He was a full participant. Rico Dwaddle, who has been tremendous for them. I dropped him midseason. I'm super upset about that because I would have advanced this week if I had him on my team. Full participation with the knee injury. CeeDee Lamb limited with a shoulder injury, but he's going to be good to go. And Tyler Smith, their guard, full participant with an ankle injury. So there's a little rundown on them. Buccaneers, I think they'll be mostly healthy. Going into this game against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Give them a little bit more time to heal up. We'll see KJ Britt's the big one I'm watching, and Kate Otten. Again, I think, with Evans was clearly a rest day. With Baker, I think it's more like precautionary maintenance. Shepard and Wirfs did the stance last week. I'm watching Otten and I'm watching KJ Britt. It'd be nice to have KJ Britt back, even though the Bucs have done well with him out. Those are the 2 names that I'm looking at. Otherwise, they're starting to get fully healthy. I asked Todd today if, what's the timeline with Jordan Whitehead? Is he progressing? He's going to miss next week's game, but then he could come back for the Saints game at the end of the season. He said he's progressing, but he's not sure. So we'll see. Let's get into some of you guys' comments over here. Let's take a look at what you guys got going on. Always appreciative of you guys dropping in. Richard says, happy hump day, JC and everyone else. Walking tall. Bud says, walking tall. Why are the Bucs best games on the road? Chargers, Saints, Rams, 2019. Yeah, they do play well on the road. This year, they're 5-2. I did want to bring that up. They're 5-2 on the road. They're trending for a home playoff game, but that 5-2 mark, we'll see if they can make it 6-2 with a win in Dallas. That bodes well. That means that they're able to, handle playing on the road better than some teams in the league. And some teams, they kind of lose that home field advantage, and they start to crumble a little bit. But the Bucs have played really well on the road. Not to say they haven't played well at home, but when you're playing the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the 49ers at home, and again, they should have beat the Niners. Those are couple tough teams that, not the Niners anymore. I mean, they just completely collapsed since the bye week. But, those are some tough teams to have to, obviously they had the loss against the Broncos early on as well, and the horrible loss against the Falcons. But we won't bring that up, even though the Falcons have benched Kirko Cousins. Kirko Chains is Gonzo, Michael Penix Jr. Bold move, bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it plays off. You're in a 3-game hunt for the NFC South title, trying to maybe even crack the wild card, and you're going to bench your quarterback. And I get it. Yeah, he hasn't been effective really, throwing a lot of interceptions. But, man, that's you're betting on a lot there that this guy's going to be doing. So, I wonder, too, if it's like you obviously don't want to make the playoffs, but, hey, we got to get a look at this kid. If we're going to make a decision about Kirk, we got to get a look at this kid. We have to figure out if we're going to be able to roll with him. Do we cut Kirk? Kirk just need more time, or is he done? Like, is Kirk dealing with something we don't know about? Like, I think they got to get a look at Penix. I think this is the best way to do it, especially even though they're coming off a win, Kirk not playing well. So Richard says, great to see Jalen McMillan playing more confidently. We talked to him today. He kind of talked about that. He talked about the chemistry and just kind of continuing to be on that same page with Baker Mayfield has been huge for him. Just staying consistent. He says harping on the details always and just trusting each other and having a great week of practice has been, the consistency, the reason for the consistency and success the team has had. He says Baker's intensity and just the way he leads them, and just him as a person carries over the field, and they love being around him. Him being more intentional in practice, catching the football, putting yourself in game-like situations. If he's got the first play of practice, you got to block like it's a real game. Putting yourself in game-like situations has been a big thing that's kind of turned him around. He also quipped that the coaches are, because, we kind of talked to Todd, how do you keep him humble? He said there's plenty of characters in here to keep guys humble and from getting big head. So we asked him, what's the funniest thing or that he's held from the coaches, or they help keep you grounded. And he said, they've been talking about my mustache a lot. But he said he could take a grain of salt. So he's been really stepping up. It's been great to see him step up, obviously. Bri points out the Cowboys are 30th ranked rush defense. Panthers are 32nd. Saints at 32nd. Panthers are 25th. Bucky can get 1K this game or next easily. He's going to get the 1,000 yards, I think. Unless something happens, he's probably going to get that starting. He's probably going to get that 1,000 yards. He's making defenders miss an amazing clip, too, as Richard points out. His missed tackle percentage and making the first guy miss percentages up the top of the league. He's been absolutely amazing to watch. Everything you saw on tape at Oregon transferred over. And I was hesitant. I told you guys, like, when I did my write-ups, I did like over 160 write-ups on college players that I thought the Bucs, not everyone, but thought that the Bucs could look at seriously. I missed them. I didn't write about him. I looked at him. I watched some of his tape. I said, oh, very intriguing. But then I also said, he's really small. And I feel like the Bucs want some guy who can kind of be that grinder, because I know Dave wanted a guy who could be that grinder, those tough yards, those 1-2 yards, those goal line short yardage situations. They have Rashad, but some guy who can really just roll over his shoulder and run through people. I thought that's what they're looking more like. And I'm glad I'm wrong. Because once I went back, watched his tape, rewrote him. Shout out to Trevor Sikkema, Tampa Bay Trey. He was first on him. I was like, wow, this guy is really good. And if he can translate, that was my big thing. If he can translate this, because he's not going against Pac-12 guys anymore. He's going against the best of the best. Then he could be really good at the next level. And lo and behold, it's freaking translated. We're not monetized yet. Whoops. Changing the rating of this podcast real quick. So it's funny. We were talking about Liam Coen earlier, potentially, could he leave? Richard says, dear Liam, you and Baker are a perfect marriage. Don't F it up. Bud says, curious how Cohen's defense would look or who he would appoint to the defense. Of course, if he took the spot. This is another thing I want to touch on. Richard said the O-line has been magical. We were talking about the running game. O-line has been phenomenal. These guys have been outstanding all season, but especially this 4-game stretch. They've been a huge part of the turnaround in the running game. They've been outstanding in pass protection. Baker's got the cleanest pocket to work from in the NFL. Tristan Wirfs, Luke Gedeke settled in nicely, and probably are arguably the best tackle tandem in the league. Luke Gedeke had the best numbers per PFF this week. Tristan Wirfs just continued to be an animal. AQ Shipley, former Bucs center on Pat McAfee show today, said that Tristan Wirfs is the best tackle in the league. Best tackle in the league. And that's over a guy like Trent Williams, who has been up and down. Hasn't played a lot this season, been up and down. Cody Mauch should be a Pro Bowler this season. He really should. He's not going to get the national media attention, but there's no doubt he should be a Pro Bowler. He's been phenomenal. Ben Bredeson has been with the forgotten man, has really rejuvenated his career. He's on a 1-year deal, but he's been stellar as a low-cost upside signing in the offseason. He was in a competition to win left guard, won it by default with Sua Opeta going down, and he's been great. There's times where he'll get bull rushed. There's times where he had a holding penalty this week. Graham Barton got called for 2 of them this week, but he's been steadily progressing this season. He's going to anchor the offensive line for years to come. This offensive line has been phenomenal. Jason Light, his staff, know what they're looking for at this point for offensive linemen. Elijah Klein got his first 3 snaps of the year at the end of the game last week. They know what they're looking for, and the guys buy in. It starts with, obviously, Coach Carberry, who came in, and Brian Picucci, but Liam Coen, too, putting them in the best blocking schemes that fit them, the backs, the players themselves, just putting the effort into the offseason, the regular season. They've been elite. PFF rated them their number 3 offensive line this week, and I think that's still too low. The guys have just been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So before we get into your answers here, where you guys have Mike Evans, if you guys made a list, make the list. Let me see what you got going on there, who you have. Let's just give another shout out to one of our other sponsors here. This one, I love all our sponsors, but this one's really cool because, they are taking the hassle out of planning a trip to a game or anything like that. Fango tickets. If you guys get tired of getting blitzed by big ticketing companies, turn to Fango. You're exclusively locally owned and operated Tampa Bay ticketing partner that offers fans like you full transparency. They prioritize fair pricing and no hidden fees so that Tampa fans can enjoy events without unexpected costs. Visit fango.com for unbeatable prices, personalized seat selection, and local partnerships that will take your game day to the next level. And that's the thing I love about them, is that the partnerships that they're forming and building that are going to allow you to just kind of get everything you want in one go. A lot of people don't live in Tampa. Some people live, in Polk County. Some people live in Orange County, Hernando County, whatever. And you don't want to make the day trip, the 2-hour day trip to come see the Lightning, to come see the Rays, to come see the Bucs. Well, with what they're doing, and eventually once everything's put together, you're going to be able to do everything: parking, hotel, restaurant reservations for pregame, postgame, whatever. All of it's going to be wrapped in. You'll be able to buy that, your ticket, concerts too, all that. It's going to be all right in one click away. And it's going to be really cool. But check out, they're doing some awesome things right now. Check them out, fangotickets.com. Again, locally owned and operated. We love supporting that. So for Mike Evans, I have him in the top 10. I do have him in the top 10. My top 5 is what I said: Rice, Moss, Johnson, Fitz, and T.O. I have Antonio Brown and Marvin Harrison probably above him, but I think he's right there at 8. I know I'm forgetting. Isaac Bruce might be before him, but he's right there in the top 10. And it's not just the numbers, And again, Mike's consistent with his yearly output, 1,000 yards every season, for 10 straight seasons. If he gets it this year, he needs 84 more yards per game. He'll tie Jerry Rice. You look at his over 100 yards or 150-yard, 2-touchdown games. He's only behind Rice is in a different stratosphere. He's like 14, but Tyreek Hill, or 17, I think. Tyreek Hill has 8. Mike Evans is right behind him with 7. He's really good, but Mike will have these stretches where he's super impactful one game and doesn't do much the next game, and super impactful. And I think, the lack of consistency across the board can kind of hurt him sometimes. But you also go back and look at what Mike has done and who he's done it with. People forget Tom Brady was only here for 3 years. That's it. Before that, you had Jameis Winston, and love Jameis. I'm watching Hard Knocks right now, and man, I love Jameson. I love Jameson too, but Jameis as a person, and I can't wait for his post-playing career because whatever he does is going to be must-watch TV. He's going to be great. I listen. I pray that God delivers him from pick sixes too, because I think he's a tremendous human being, great person, and he's got great talent. That's always been the thing with Jameis. Great talent, bad decision making. But no, Jameis, and then the litany of guys. I can't even name every guy. Glennon was there. McCown was there. You guys know. I don't need to tell you who we had to play with. Like, it was not good. Not a good look. This is not a good look for me, but still got it done since his rookie year. And that's what's most impressive is his rookie year, because he was fighting for targets with Vincent Jackson. RIP. Like it's it's not like he's just the one guy. Like Malik Neighbors is going to get 1,000 yards, but he's got a bad quarterback, but nobody with him. So he's getting all the targets. Mike had to fight for those targets. So I think he's right there. He's between 8 and probably 10 for me. I'd really have to look at the list and, look at that technology. I can look at it right now while I'm talking to you guys. All-time wide receiver rankings. Let's see who they have on there. Let's see if we can kind of yards career leaders. Again, I mentioned the guys are going to be at the top of the list for me: Jerry Rice, Larry Fitz, T.O., Randy Moss, Isaac Bruce is going to be up there. I think probably for him, Marvin Harrison. But the guys above Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, even though Mike Evans surpassed him, Mike Evans now has 12,429 yards, which has surpassed Antonio Brown. What Antonio Brown did as a 6th-round pick and didn't play his rookie year, and just he was his breaks in and out. You guys got to watch him, the Bucs, but I mean, in his prime, forget about it. No one's touching Jerry Rice's 22,000 yards. That's for damn sure. I'll tell you that. But other guys here in this top 24, Tim Brown. Tim Brown was a great receiver. Steve Smith Sr., no one's going to say him on this podcast. Reggie Wayne was awesome. He was great to watch. Andre Johnson, James Lofton. A lot of people forget about him because he was older. Chris Carter. Anquan Bolden was a lot. I'm surprised. I didn't realize Anquan Bolden had that much yards, but he was a monster. Julio Jones in his prime was great. Obviously, the Bucs got to play with the Bucs here. Torrey, but sustained. He hasn't really sustained it since. Torrey Holt, awesome. Andre Reed. Steve Largent was another one that people leave off there. DeAndre Hopkins in his prime. Irving Fryer, Art Monk, Mike Evans. Right behind him, we'll do top 30. B. Marsh, Antonio Brown, Jimmy Smith, Charlie Joyner, Hines Ward, Derek Mason. And Devontae Adams a few spots behind him. Calvin Johnson's behind him, but Calvin Johnson was just unbelievable. Other guys around him: Keenan McCardell, Deshaun Jackson, Keenan Allen, Chad Johnson, Tyreek Hill, Roddy White. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at it. I mean, there's a few guys you want to make the argument, for, Tim Brown. I'll hear you. Reggie Wayne, I'll hear you. Andre Johnson, he did a lot with less too, similar. Like, I'll hear you on that. James Lofton, I'll definitely hear you on that. Different time where they were running the ball a lot more. Same thing with Steve Largent. I'll hear you on both of those. Steve Largent did it with one team. Other than that, I'm not going to really, maybe Chris Carter, maybe. Other than that, I'm not really entertaining it, and that puts him around top 15 at the very least. Christopher Cole says top 10 at least. Richard says top 10. Bud Cannibal says top 5, biased, top 10, unbiased. Top 5 being biased, top 10 unbiased. Evans is definitely top 10, probably 7 for me. Says Bry, but I won't do that conversation until he retires. Makes me ill to think this might be Levante David's last season. I don't know. Levante said he's going to play till the wheels fall off and he can't do it anymore. But Levante just had 100 tackles for the 11th time. He's right behind the lead in sacks with 5. The team lead in sacks with 5.5. Levante might not be done. I said get used to Levante. I mean, it depends on what the Bucs do. If they win a Super Bowl, knock on wood, he's walking off into the sunset. But if they get to the NFC Championship game and he likes what this, there could be he could come back. I'm not saying it anymore. I won't say enjoy Levante David because he's Levante freaking David. He is him. But I'm not going to say it could be his last season. I don't know. What else we got here? Man, you guys have been busy. Only pass catcher with 11K yards and 100 touchdowns that is in the Hall of Famer is tight end Antonio Gates, and he should be on there. He should be on there as well. I think top 10 and top 15, and I would say top 7. You can 7 to 15, but he's not out of there. He's not out of there, and I'd make a case for him in the top 10. Okay, let's jump back into these comments before we wrap the show up. Actually, I want to give a shout out to Mosley Heating and Air, one of our other sponsors here. When Florida heat hits you hard, trust Mosley Heating and Air to keep you cool and comfortable. With over 25 years of experience, their family-owned business knows what it takes to keep your home's HVAC system running smoothly. Need a repair, a new system, a maintenance plan? Hit them up. They've got you covered. Call Mosley Heating and Air today at 813-230-3742 or visit them online at mosleyheatingandair.com. Mosley Heating and Air, where comfort meets reliability. They're great people. Hit them up, guys. They do a phenomenal job. So let's jump into this. Panther fan says, you think the Bucs could beat the Eagles if they meet in the playoffs? Yeah, absolutely. If they meet in the playoffs, it's probably going to be in Philly. And the Bucs have had success in their career. They shut down the link. Rondé Barber. But for some reason, the Bucs just have Philly's number. Philly's a different team this year, and they were a little banged up when they first played. But I still think the Bucs match up well with the Eagles. They always have, especially if the Bucs are healthy. We're talking about the playoffs. No more injuries happen. They get Antoine back. They get Jordan Whitehead back. Mike Edwards back. KJ Britt back. Who knows? Who knows? Chris Godwin said, if he's optimistic. He's ever the optimistic, that he's going to work his tail off to get back. We're talking probably maybe NFC Championship game or divisional game, depending on how things shake out. Could be NFC Championship divisional game. This is a possibility. Unlikely, but a possibility. I think they stack up good against this team. So they've been kicking ass on the road at 7-2. We'll see if they can make it 6-2. I think they can. I think they'll be able to. I think they'll be able to hold their own against the Eagles, even though the Eagles are playing much better since they beat them. John V says Glazers can't let Liam out of the building. I agree. Coen and Saleh would be a great coaching combination. I agree. I think so. Saleh knows how to play off that system because Shanahan runs it. Shanahan, McVay, Coen. Obviously, they all do their own separate things, but similar kind of knows what the principles of that offense are. Can play his defense off of it. Absolutely. Even if we had even a top 20 defense for the bye week, we would have won the Niners game, probably both the Falcons game. It's crazy to think about. Yeah. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. They would be they'd be in a much better position. I had them at 11-6. They have the opportunity potentially, run the table. We'll see. John V says, is Hainsey deal up at the end of the year? I feel like long term they should move Barton to left guard at some point. Hainsey is up at the end of the year. Barton will play center for his career. He's not moving to left guard, or they would have done that this season. Hainsey just doesn't have enough sand in his pants. He's very serviceable backup. I think Hainsey probably comes back unless he's offered starter or the opportunity to start somewhere. He loves this room. He loves these guys. He loves these players. And sometimes comfortability means more at the end of the day, especially if you're getting a nice chunk of change as a backup. He gets like a 2-year, $6 million deal or something like that. I think he'd stick around. So we'll see. Buccaneers Brad says Godwin didn't get hurt. Casey, San Francisco would have gone to OT. The Falcons game wouldn't have come to a ref-handed touchdown. Plus, if they called that face mask game 1 with Atlanta, they're 12-2. Yeah, coulda, woulda, shouldas. Got to play. Let's see. Richard says third-ranked O-line. They Thanos, Mack, and Bosa and half the defense. They did two pressures. I talked to Todd about that. These guys are just playing phenomenal ball. Richard says, are the Bucs winning out regular season? I think they are. I don't want to knock on wood, but you kind of start looking at these teams and how they stand up against them, how they're playing right now. Dallas has got some pieces. Micah Parsons. Todd Bowles said he's a pain in my ass. He's asked, what player does he, what player comp do you think he was a pain in my ass? In the best of ways. He's still a problem, even though Overshawn's out there, other defensive end. And obviously, Trevon Diggs is out. They still got some players on that team that can make plays on defense. On offense, Rico Dwaddle's been playing really well. CeeDee Lamb is still CeeDee Lamb. They can get some stuff out of Brandon Cooks. It's they got to show up. It's in Dallas Sunday night. They got to show up. They haven't been great in primetime games this year. So they got to kind of right the ship here. And still 2 divisional games, They're wonky. These divisional games are wonky. The Browns beat the Ravens, people, and the Steelers. These division games, they can get crazy here. But I think the Bucs have the better team in both of those matchups, and I think they win. Let's see. Who do you think's better, Vikings or Pack? I think the Vikings are better. I personally don't think the Bucs would mind playing either of them in Tampa, which would likely shake out. If they get the 3 seed, they're going to play one of them. If Detroit doesn't lose, you're either playing the Vikings, the Packers, or the Lions. That's who you're playing. One of those 3 teams. You've already beat one of them in the Lions, the Vikings, Packers. We'll see. They got to come down here. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Of course, Bucs got to handle their business before that even gets happening. That's what people look at. Would never led the league in anything. Most guys were the only guy. Evans had V. Jackson, Godwin his whole career. Still put up the numbers. I agree. Who is Haynes going to play with Mario Kart if he leaves Tampa? Bryce says. And can Dallas keep up points-wise? Richard says to end the show. I don't think they can. Like Cooper Rush, I don't think they can. But the Bucs have to play the Dallas Cowboys. They cannot play the Bucs, because when they play the Bucs and get these false starts and interceptions and fumbles and stuff like that, that's when it goes off the rails. That's when you give team a sliver of hope, and that's when teams come through and make you pay for it. So, but I think the Bucs are just moving right now at a clip that not many teams can stop, as and we'll get more into their rankings and how the Bucs stack up against them later in the week when I do my Bucs Cowboys matchup thing. But their rush defense ranks 30th in the league, as Brian pointed out earlier. The Bucs should be able to run all over this run defense, especially again 2 of their Massey Smith, Nick Virgil, both of them dealing with injuries, didn't practice. Demario Overshawn out. The Bucs should be able to run at will. They should be able to get 200 yards against this team again combined, I feel like, and should be able to pass the ball pretty well too, especially with Trevon Diggs out. They still got some playmakers back there in the secondary, but I think the Bucs should be able to handle the Cowboys pretty easily, even though they're coming off a big win on their own right. I think they should be able to win and then win out the rest of the season. Finish with 11-6, so I'm still on my record prediction there. We'll see if some of these other guys can step up and start helping me, because it doesn't look like Yaya Diaby's going to get 10 sacks. I think I had him at like 12. He's got 2, so he's got 10 sacks in 3 games. Let's go, Yaya. We'll see, if Mike Evans can hit 1,000 yards again, 84 yards per game. He's got a good cornerback matchup this week. We'll see what he can do. And I think unless he gets injured, I think it's a foregone conclusion. Bucky gets 1,000 yards on the ground. So, Bucs offense moving and grooving. Defense is playing strong. Again, I don't want that to get lost in the sauce. Talked a lot about the offense. The defense has been playing very good without their secondary. Their safety room has been gone. Ryan Neal, everyone, just give your flowers to Ryan Neal right now. Everyone moaned and groaned when we talked about it 2 weeks ago when he was brought back. You played a heck of a game. You really did. You got me high pitched and everything. You played a heck of a game. Vi Jones, J.J. Russell played great games. I think, the sky's the limit for this Bucs team. If they continue to play the way they have, there's no doubt in my mind. You hear it all over national TV. No one wants to face this Bucs team. Nobody wants to, if they get in, when they get in, they could do some damage. I had them at NFC Championship, and I wasn't there earlier in the season. I dropped that. I was like, oh, they'll be lucky if they get past the divisional round. After what they just showed me, and again, I said that last week, said they need to show me this week that they can be a team to deal with in the playoffs. I think they showed me. I think they showed all of you. I think they showed everybody nationally, and now teams are starting to look at the Bucs as a team to fear. And that's good news. Good news for the Bucs. So that's going to do it for me here. Appreciate everybody here. Again, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. If you're if you're listening on the streaming podcast version, I appreciate you guys. Come join the live show sometime. Get in the comments. I'll talk to you. I appreciate everybody. That's going to do it for me here at the Pirate Parlay Podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm your host, JC Allen, and we're out of here. See you guys later this week for Behind the Enemy Lines. We're out of here. Peace out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.